Hit the shower. Grab your coffee. And get ready to attack the weekend with Charlie Usen and Jack Pembroke as they catch you up on everything Wisconsin sports you may have missed this past week. All before you even finish your breakfast. It's Wisconsin Sports Weekend, brought to you by the Apollo Cafe on Brady Street. 25 years of Greek tradition. Enjoy gyros, souvlaki, fresh salads, and the legendary Zeus Burger. Dine in, take out, or get it delivered. Apollo Cafe, Milwaukee's Greek superstar of flavor, on the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network.
How we doing, folks? How are we doing? Welcome back into Wisconsin Sports Weekend. I am Charlie Usen. My guy Jack Pembroke on the other side of the glass over there. Hopefully, you guys are staying warm here, just like we are at the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Yesterday, I think I almost turned into an icicle immediately when I stepped outside, Jack.
I've never felt my skin just starting to burn when you just get a gust of wind.
Right.
So yeah, it's pretty intense. Stay warm. If you can stay inside, just be a hobbit.
I was surprised my junk car started. It was a car that I've had somehow that's lasted over the past year and a half now. It was crazy. I got in there and immediately turned the key, and then it didn't start right away. So I was like, great. Now I'm going to have to take my girlfriend's car to work. She got off work yesterday because everybody else gets off work besides us that are doing amazing sports radio talk on here, because we need to keep somebody. You guys got to be entertained somehow.
Someone's got to keep the heat on.
Exactly. So I was a little worried about that, and then my car started up right away. And then I came out after work yesterday. I went out to start it right away and did the same thing. And this time I had to do 2 key turns, so that worried me a little bit. And then the second key turn, I got it.
2 wiggles. That's all you need.
It's the classic. All right, so here on Wisconsin Sports Weekend, we recap everything that has happened this past week in Wisconsin sports. And for some Wisconsin sports fans, it's been a pretty dismal week. You saw Freddie Peralta get traded. We're going to dive into that and what that means for the Brewers this upcoming season. And will this be the last big offseason news for the Milwaukee Brewers that we hear before we head into spring training? Giannis last night against the Denver Nuggets in a game that was not fun to watch at all, also left that game with a calf strain. He will be out 4 to 6 weeks and will miss the All-Star break there. He was the All-Star captain, got most of the votes. So that is a little unfortunate. We'll dive into that injury and what that means for the rest of the season for the Milwaukee Bucks. At 9:40 and 10 o'clock, we're going to do the same kind of topic because I want to intro it at 9:40, and at 10 o'clock, we're going to dive into it a little bit more. But Philip Rivers was receiving some head coach interviews, so we wanted to ask you, does news like that, hearing things like that, make you appreciate Matt LaFleur a little bit more and that contract extension that he is about to get? It's been confirmed that he's going to get it. We just don't know how much money it is until they figure out the Brian Gutekunst, until they figure out Russ Ball's contract as well. And then, as always, we got Warlocks Locks. We're going to switch it up a little bit today, do a little bit kind of Mount Pixmore / Warlocks Locks combined together. So that should be a lot of fun. And then we close the show off with the Wisconsin Sports Weekend Pub Crawl, as always. Jack, let's head back to that first segment I had brought up. Freddie Peralta traded 2 days ago to the New York Mets for shortstop, second baseman, outfielder, number 3 prospect in the New York Mets organization, Jet Williams. And then their number 5 prospect, Brandon Sproat, a pitcher that has been up at the MLB level for the Mets for the past season, and now is being traded to the Brewers to hopefully fill in for Freddie Peralta that he has been traded. Tobias Myers also went in this trade to New York from the Milwaukee Brewers. When you first heard this trade news, what was your immediate reaction to Freddie Peralta getting traded?
I think it was a lot like a lot of the people in Milwaukee and surrounding cities of Wisconsin, is that you kind of saw this coming, right? You kind of felt like, well, the Brewers don't ever overpay people. They're a lot like the Packers. If you might have 2 years left on the car tires, they might trade you. They might move you. So it's unfortunate. I think he was a really great guy for the community, and a lot of people loved him. But like you've said in the past, a lot of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
That's what it felt like sometimes with Freddie Peralta. And I think this trade, what more people are frustrated with, and we've heard multiple people bringing this up in the national media side of things, is that it was just $8 million this season, and that's all they're complaining. And the Brewers are so cheap, they won't even want to pay $8 million to Freddie Peralta. Well, most people don't understand is that he's going to get like at least $18 million in his next free agency contract, depending on how the season goes with the New York Mets. He's going to get a ton of money that the Brewers were not going to be able to pay, especially since you're already giving Brandon Woodruff $20 million a year.
You can't afford the next price jump. And it's important when you're one of the 10 smaller clubs in the MLB to retain talent, younger talent, and then also make fiscally smart decisions. And I think my hope is this is a smart decision. You've made me feel happy when you said, hey, this pitcher we got, he's MLB ready.
That's what a lot of people have said. We talked to Jack Stern. Yesterday, we talked to Jim Callis of MLB Pipeline. Again, he's been at that MLB level, Brandon Sproat, that is. He hasn't been overall phenomenal, but he's been solid, and he has a guy that has a really high ceiling. He has about 6 pitches in his repertoire, which I know Chris Hook, the Brewers pitching coach, he was on the Hot Stove Weekly Show with Tim Allen and Tommy Wirtz this past Wednesday, but I know he will be able to work with a pitcher like that and kind of bring his repertoire down to about 3 to 4 pitches and then really focus on those 3 to 4 pitches so that he is one of the best throwers of those 3 to 4 pitches. You saw him do that with Quinn Priester last year, another guy that came in with kind of a wider range of pitches and then limited it down until you saw how much of an impact it had on a guy like Quinn Priester's game. I think with Sproat, the thing that I'm most excited about is that for the Milwaukee Brewers, you already have a full rotation, even without Freddie Peralta there. You have Brandon Woodruff. You have Jacob Mizorowski. You have Quinn Priester, like I mentioned before. You have Chad Patrick, who was in Rookie of the Year voting before he kind of phased out of that rotation, especially when Brandon Woodruff and Jacob Mizorowski were added into that group. And then you have plenty of other options to be that 5th guy. Aaron Ashby. You have a DL Hall that could potentially be there. You have options, and Logan Henderson's a player that's going to be coming off an injury here, a young player that pitched really well when he pitched last season. I think this is going to be really exciting to see what the Brewers do and how they rotate around that bullpen and that starting rotation and where Brandon Sproat fits in.
I was just going to agree with you, like I do a lot on this show, because you make very eloquent points, but it's not a bad thing for a team like the Brewers to have a stable of pitchers. Sure, you lose Freddie, but we may have gained not only some youth, but some cheap youth that can look. Other than the Dodgers, wasn't afraid of other people's pitching compared to our pitching, at a head-to-head level last year in the playoffs. I thought that we would always have a slight edge there, but obviously the Dodgers are the Dodgers, and it's hard to compete with that type of money. But you need defense, and if we're gonna go deeper into the MLB October playoffs, pitching's got to be our number one thing.
Well, and it has been for the past 5 years or so for this Milwaukee Brewers team, is that the bats just haven't been able to get going. And I think when we head over to the other half of this trade, Jet Williams coming back to the Milwaukee Brewers, that's what a lot of people are worried about. Jack, I don't know if you know this. He's 5'7". He's a short dude.
I heard you and Tommy talking about him Friday.
A lot of pop, though.
Yeah.
He's got about 17 homers over last season over the course of AA and AAA when he moved between those two levels, which is a lot for a guy that size. And we also talked about comparisons like a Jose Altuve, who's a consistent 20 homer a year guy, or an Ozzy Albies when he's healthy is also a consistent 20 homer a year guy. And both those guys are shorter players. You also get Bryce Terang this past season. I know he's a little bit taller. He's about 5'11" or so, but still he's a guy that's under that 6 foot kind of threshold that people are considering for a power hit.
Average guy height.
Right, exactly. Jose Ramirez is another guy who's a little bit shorter that right now is just restructuring his contract for like 7 years, $154 million. Like he's awesome. So there's potential there. And I think a lot of people that are worried about another short player being added into the Milwaukee Brewers clubhouse should really kind of, again, dive into this player's film, Jet Williams, dive into his stats and see that there's more to it. And again, it feels very Bryce Terang-ish, Sal Frelick-ish with the way that this Brewers team will be able to work with a player like that.
If it was basketball, Charlie, I'd be worried that we are hiring a bunch of 5'7" to 5'9" guys. But look, this team, this organization has shown you they can turn out athletes at whatever height, weight, position. And I think it's important to remember we've had guys come through, whether they're fielders or hitters, that are about 5'7" to 5'9" and have had success. I think you got to focus on, they know what they're doing. They like the guy. His tape's good. I don't tend to worry too much about height in baseball as long as there's results, right?
Exactly. If we head on over to BetMGM, their MLB win totals over under there, they have the Brewers at 87.5. Jack, I wanted to ask you, and I also want to ask the listeners, the wonderful listeners here on the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network, did this move, the Freddie Peralta trade, change your expectations for this upcoming season at all? And also, will this be the last big offseason news we hear from the Milwaukee Brewers? Hit us up on the Nicolay Law Talk text line, 414-677-1250. Again, 414-677-1250, to get on the show that way. You can also see us at WI Sports Radio on Twitter, on YouTube, where we are live streaming the show that way. Jack is wearing a very nice sweater, so tune in to see his very nice sweater that he's got on over there. But you, again, at WI Sports Radio or on the Nicolay Law Talk text line, 414-677-1250. Jack, has this trade changed your expectations for this upcoming season? 87.5 wins doesn't seem like unattainable at all for this Milwaukee Brewers team. I just feel like a lot of people see the roster that they had last year and saw that there was probably points at which they overachieved.
Sure.
And this season, you're going to see it probably maybe a little bit of regression, but you're also going to see a lot of growth from some players. Hopefully Bryce Trang takes another step. Hopefully Jackson Chourio takes another step. Jacob Mizorowski. But what we saw from guys like Joey Ortiz last year, what happens to guys like Caleb Durbin, who had a probably overperforming season last year? Is Joey Ortiz still a part of this team? Pitcher-wise, with some of those pitchers, Freddie Peralta was a constant. You kind of knew what you were going to get from Freddie Peralta. And yes, he improved on his career last season, but also I don't know if a lot of people were expecting him to really improve on that again. So they knew what they were getting in Freddie Peralta and that he was a mainstay of this team. Without him in that clubhouse, do you think that changes people's perspectives of what the season will be?
I think it has to in some ways because, look, chemistry is always different when you lose players. I remember I got to cover back in the day when I was working on the Wendy's Big Show. I got to cover Brewers home games and be in the locker room, and guys like Yohannes Cespedes and some other guys that were just really loved by players. That changes the chemistry in the locker room, and you can feel it even if it's spring season and spring training. So maybe it does change kind of the DNA, and that might screw around with 5 to 7 wins, and that might be a difference. But look, it's a long season. I'm more happy that I'm seeing the Brewers make moves for the future in terms of, hey, we want to be consistently fighting for top playoff positions in the NL Central, and we want to be going deep into October. I think this is a good move for not this coming season, but also the next coming season, because you're getting younger and you're getting younger talent and talent that you can develop with the talent that last year did overperform. But I think the power of friendship could get you maybe 90 wins next year.
Do you think the power of friendship is enough to take down some of the other teams in the division that have been making moves? So my Chicago Cubs, I'm a fan of that team.
They've been making great moves.
They went and trade for Edward Cabrera to add him into that rotation because they needed a little bit of insurance there. They have a lot of great top-end talent, but the back half of that rotation is great, and the top-end talent can't stay healthy. So Edward Cabrera really strengthens that. They also signed Alex Bregman, take him away from the Boston Red Sox, a guy who perennially is an all-star and sometimes a borderline MVP candidate if he's at his best. Do you think a move like this, yes, the Brewers are getting 2 prospects that are either MLB ready or close to MLB ready, mixed with all the other prospects that you have right on the verge there that are in that top 100. MLB Pipeline just put out their final totals. The Brewers had 5 top 100 prospects. Guys like Cooper Pratt are in that list, and he could potentially make a MLB start this season. You have other players like Jesus Mate, which throughout the season you may end up seeing him, especially.
I think we're seeing him next year.
Jet Williams is a guy that they, again, just traded for, who you could potentially see as well. I think looking forward to this next season, yes, as much of them as I'm excited about a lot of these young players that the Brewers are bringing into their organization, I'm still worried about other teams that are still outpaying the Milwaukee Brewers right now. And Sparky brought up this topic yesterday. He says that what the Milwaukee Brewers are doing right now could be a problem for teams that want a salary cap, which the Brewers want a salary cap.
Yes.
They want the rest of the league, but that they are showing the rest of the league that, oh, you don't need to pay a ton of money to stay competitive. I think at the same point, if you were to lose the division to the Cubs this season, or again, you head into the playoffs and lose to the Dodgers again, none of this matters at this point. It's still going to lead to that salary cap.
You're right. I think inevitably we will see a salary cap. Is just going to keep it more competitive for the MLB. Do you want to get to some of these comments in the dugout?
Yeah. Guys, if I know one thing, summers are fun in Milwaukee. Hopefully this summer will be no different. That is from Timothy Wong, our friend over there. And he says, add American family to specify there as well. I get it. I think Milwaukee Brewers baseball is one of my favorite activities in the entire city of Milwaukee. And you compare it to like the Milwaukee Bucks right now and how hard it is to watch them sometimes. I think even when the Brewers are bad, it's still fun to watch the Milwaukee Brewers. I also think that the Brewers just can't be bad. The way they've built this team, the way that they've been able to develop players, they're going to find a way to compete always, and that's what makes it fun to watch. Just at some point, I'd like to see that go towards a World Series instead of just, oh, we made an NL Championship Series. Let's get our butt kicked by the Dodgers and just say, oh, get them next year.
It is annoying thinking as a fan or people that cover the sport that there is a ceiling for how your team can perform. And look, the Dodgers are that like leering monster that you don't want to walk down that dark alleyway. But I think I'm always positive in that we have the coaching, we have players that seem to play up to that coaching. So I'm more of like it's 3/4 full, the glass of milk, going into this season. Yeah, obviously you've got 160 plus games. It's a long season. Let's see how they do. But I tend to be a little bit positive going into this Brewers season that we'll get over 87.5, and that hopefully we'll look back and say, hey, these young guys that we got from the Mets helped us get deep into October.
Do you think most fans are in that same boat?
No.
Where do you think most fans are?
I think some fans are a little bit, they're thinking with their heart and their stomach is that, oh, why did we do this? Maybe it won't work out. Maybe the pitcher works out, but we needed hitting against the Dodgers and we weren't able to accomplish that. So exactly. That's your argument.
Do you feel like that is a symptom of the way the national media is talking about a trade like this?
Sure.
Because I feel like the local media and a lot of fans that are true diehard Brewers fans look at a trade like this and again say, look at the last 3 trades that the Brewers have made, guys like Corbin Burns, guys like Josh Hader and Devin Williams. All those trades, they found ways to work out. And you didn't get the same kind of return that you got in this trade as well. You got 2 top 5 prospects, top 100 prospects from the New York Mets versus what you got for Devin Williams. Nestor Cortez, who pitched like 3 total games and then was gone. And then Caleb Durbin, who came out of nowhere and ended up being the star of that trade for both teams. He was the best part of it. Was kind of crazy. The Corbin Burns trade is the same kind of deal. DL Hall was kind of the main piece of that trade coming back to the Brewers. You haven't really seen him pitch that much for the Brewers, but Joey Ortiz ended up working out because the Brewers scout really well and they know what they're getting for players like that.
I think you've hit it on the button there is that, look, we won't know until a third or halfway into the season if this was a great move. But I think this team has proven that not having blockbuster deals at the start of the, that people are wowing themselves about has worked out for the Brewers. We quietly build out guys that we trade for and we see like, hey, they might not have worked for their last team, but they will fit into this Brew crew. I love that about our team. And that's why I always stay positive about the Brewers. I can understand the other side of the coin where we need offense.
Exactly. Exactly. This is Wisconsin Sports Weekend, live from Wisconsin Sports Radio Network studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook and presented by Apollo Cafe, Milwaukee's Greek superstar flavor, right there on historic Brady Street. When we come back, we're going to dive into Giannis's injury from last night and what that means for all the rumors, all of the news, all swirling around Giannis and whether that's going to slow down, whether it's going to pick up, what that means for the Bucks moving forward this season and over the next couple of years. We will dive into all of that next here on Wisconsin Sports Weekend. We will be right back. Welcome back into Wisconsin Sports Weekend. I am Charlie Houston. That is my guy Jack Pembroke on the other side of the glass over there. If we head over to the at WI Sports Radio dugout chat on YouTube, on Twitter, our guy Cole says Alabama Crimson Tide basketball teams illegally paying money to high school athletes. Well, they have other controversies that we will dive into in the Wisconsin Sports Weekend pub crawl to close off the show. So stay tuned for that at 10:40, where we will dive into a little bit of what's happening over at Alabama and with their basketball program. But first, we wanted to dive into last night's Milwaukee Bucks game between the Bucks and the Denver Nuggets. It was a pretty disappointing performance from the team. They still ended up only losing by 2 points, but that was after Giannis Antetokounmpo left this game with a calf strain where he will miss about 4 to 6 weeks for this Milwaukee Bucks squad. The last time we saw him leave, it was not the most fun watching. It was about a 9-game stretch where they went 3-6. Jack and I talked about it here on Wisconsin Sports Weekend, live from Wisconsin Sports Radio Network Studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook and presented by Apollo Cafe, Milwaukee's Greek Superstar flavor, right there on historic Brady Street. But we were talking about how just kind of uninspiring some of the play looked and how excited we were to see some of these guys get opportunities. And then by the end of that stretch, we were like, wow, I never want to see any of these guys get opportunities again. Right, Jack?
It's the only word I can really think of is depressing sometimes, but he won us a title, and I have to remember that, in the dark times that are probably ahead for a couple of weeks, maybe the rest of the season, that, maybe it's okay. Maybe he'll be able to stay and we'll get one in the lottery, but that's the only thing that's keeping me holding on right now.
Maybe. I mean, you have to find out where you're going to pick
exactly
when it comes to that part of the season. Right now, their first round pick for this upcoming draft is tied up between the New Orleans Pelicans and the Atlanta Hawks. I believe the Pelicans have first pick rights to that, so they get to pick which of the Hawks, their own or the Bucks pick, that they get to take in the draft, and the Hawks get the second pick, so whatever one that they want out of the remaining two, and the Bucks get the third one there. So all three of those teams are not looking great right now. The Hawks traded away their star, Trae Young, to the Washington Wizards, a really weird deal that I was like, all right, whatever, sounds good to me. Go ahead, go to Washington. If that's
DC, where NBA careers go to die.
Sometimes, hey, John Wall started, Bradley Beal started there.
Yeah.
Marcin Gortat was really good at Washington.
Gortat.
Give them a little bit of respect there, Jack. They were pretty good, all right? They were like the Brewers for a while, where they would get to the playoffs.
I lived it throughout high school, Charlie.
Exactly. But, yeah, you saw the Atlanta Hawks make some trades. New Orleans Pelicans have been big names heard on the trade market right now. They haven't really made any moves. But guys like Herb Jones, guys like Zion Williamson, one of their star players who just can't stay on the court ever. A lot of these types of players are on the market right now for New Orleans. And the Milwaukee Bucks also are on the market. They're apparently more aggressive on the market, looking and circling guys like Zach LaVine currently as one of their top targets. They also have some other stars like John Morant in that conversation for them as well. Jack, right now at this point in the season, the Milwaukee Bucks are 18-26. Again, they lose last night to the Denver Nuggets in a game that did not start off very good. The score says a lot more or a lot less than what watching that game actually showed us. If we look at where the Bucks are at right now, what would be your game plan for the trade deadline coming up here?
Oh, GM Jack. Oh man, what would I do? Are people going to hate me if I say this? Yep. I don't see us really keeping him past this season. So I'm torn, Charlie. 50% of me wants to say you do what the Packers did with Rodgers and you get what you can right now in a good package while people want him. Sure, he's injured, 4 to 6 weeks out, but there's tons of people knocking on that door. Now, the question is, are they going to give you 4 first-round picks and, like a decent maybe chance at a 5th-round first pick? That's remains to be seen. But I don't know. I'm so, as you can tell, I'm not in my most positive mood about the Bucks moves going forward. But Charlie, I mean, I don't know who they could get within the next 4 to 6 weeks on this team that is going to be the spark that gets this team back to where they were 3 or 4 years ago.
Well, I don't know if you immediately need to get somebody that brings you back to where you were 3 to 4 years ago. I think you need somebody that keeps you competitive, somebody that keeps you in the playoffs. Because right now you're not looking like that team, even with Giannis on the court, and he's growing, like increasingly growing frustrated with the organization, with his teammates. He's called them out now over the past couple of games with the team in general. He has just seemed like there isn't a sense of urgency, A, from the guys in the court, and then B, from the guys in the front office as well.
He's called out the selfishness too.
Exactly, which is kind of insane since one of his press conferences, he talked about himself in third person. The next press conference after that, he was complaining about, again, the guys on the court and them not giving enough energy, and that he can only like do so much. And then it's just consistent. And this is all coming a month after we saw or heard him with Sam Amick of The Athletic saying that, I want to be a Milwaukee Buck for life. I want to be with this organization until I retire. I will never ask for a trade. But then we continue to hear rumors from guys like Shams Charania yesterday on the Pat McAfee show, where he's breaking down all of these rumors, saying that the frustrations with Giannis and his camp are growing bigger day by day, and that the Bucks are kind of scrambling right now to kind of figure out what to do with Giannis. Who are we to believe at this point, Jack?
Well, I think it's a good point you bring that up. When I listen to you guys on Wisconsin Sports Daily with Sparky Pfeiffer, Sparky always kind of seems like, well, he better not say one thing, and then his people and his representation say, well, we wanted the trade, and Giannis say, well, my agents asked for the trade, not me. That's what it's starting to feel like. It's starting to feel like on the back burner of all these things, it's like, well, the facade in the front of the house is we're going to say, nope, I bleed these colors. I don't want to leave. Milwaukee raised me. I want to be here. And then on the back burner with our agents, we'll be talking to all these other teams and seeing what we can get for a deal for Giannis. And that's what I think we're at.
Yeah, which is, again, it's sad. You asked me before the show if I was sad about Freddie Peralta being traded. And I said, no, not entirely. Like, I do understand what he meant to this locker room. I was a fan of him. I thought he had his moments where he did look like one of the best pitchers that I've seen in my lifetime. But again, he also had those moments where he didn't look like that. Giannis, I'd be sad about. I'd be devastated if they traded Giannis Antetokounmpo, because what I've seen through my lifetime, the 2021 championship, being at Deer District when they won it, again, is one of the coolest moments of my life. I will forever remember the feelings that I had that night, watching everybody walk around the streets of Milwaukee, which is like euphoria.
And everyone was nicer to each other than we're really nice here. But man, they were on Brady Street. I was working bars on Brady Street. They were throwing out free sandwiches from Jimmy John's.
There was people like driving, trying to get home, and they weren't even mad. They were honking their horns, cheering out the windows.
Flags everywhere.
Yeah, they were excited about what this could mean for the future of Milwaukee, and this is just the start. And now we're at this point where it's constantly just Giannis saying one thing, and then him saying another thing, and then reporters saying another thing from those two things that Giannis had said before. But he's extremely confusing. Sparky and I talked about earlier this week, again, on Wisconsin Sports Daily, kind of what this feels like. And he had brought up that in his time with Larry Brown and the Detroit Pistons and them trying to figure out where they need to go after they've kind of gotten to that peak, and now there's nowhere else to kind of go up, and you have to start going down a little bit in order to go back up. He brought up the fact that they just let go of that coach. They were able to kind of move on from some players, and that they were able to kind of turn that back around into a championship winning organization. And then I brought up the Toronto Raptors doing the same exact thing, where they felt like they ran their course with a guy like Dwayne Casey as the head coach, fired Nick Nurse, made a trade for Kawhi Leonard, and won a championship. And then they were able to figure it out from that point on. It's a lot easier when you have a direction to go already. With Giannis, with what he says all the time, him going back and forth saying, I want to be a part of this Bucks organization. I want to be on this team for the rest of my life. And then coming out a week later and you're hearing stuff from Shams Charania saying, well, his agents don't think that way. Well, Giannis doesn't actually think that way. The Bucks and him are working on a trade destination right now. I mean, what are we supposed to do as a fan base in this situation, Jack? I don't want to be mad at Giannis, but also I don't know what he's thinking ever.
I think you're pointing out that we're talking out of both sides of our neck here. And it is depressing. So I would feel more depressed instead of the young guys on this team starting for the next 4 to 6 weeks. I'm kind of at the point where I'm preparing myself for us to trade Giannis because, like you said, it wasn't too sad about Freddie Prada. This town, this city will be like Mudville. It will be. It's been a really long time. I'm going to age myself here, but my first NBA game was Baby Ray versus the Detroit Pistons, and they had Grant Hill and Tractor Trailer. And I remember seeing that young Bucks team with a big dog and a Baby Ray. And you could kind of see like, okay, we're putting pieces. Even a young Jack was like, hey, this could be a good team that we could build something. I don't know, like you said, is right now the way this team is built and who they can go out and get. I don't know if I have hope of, oh, yeah, we just need that piece and we could start getting some wins.
Yeah, you're just not at that point. This is Wisconsin Sports Weekend, live from Wisconsin Sports Radio Network Studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. We are discussing Giannis's injury last night and what that means for the rumors swirling around him right now from reporters, from himself, from a lot of people, and where the Bucks will go moving forward here with all the noise maybe quieting down or getting louder. You can hit us up on the Nicolay Law Talk and Text line 414-677-1250. Again, 414-677-1250, or at WI Sports Radio on YouTube and Twitter, where we are live streaming this bad boy right here. Jack, I want to ask you that question that I just asked to the listeners. With Giannis's now current injury, he's not going to be in the All-Star game. He got voted in as a starter once again. Despite missing a ton of games, he's not going to be eligible for award season at this point, too, because of the way the NBA has said it, where they have the minimum play restrictions. So he's not going to be able to be acknowledged later on in the year. Do you think that changes the way that people start talking about Giannis? Because over the past couple of weeks, it died down a little bit after he made that statement with Sam Amick that he wants to still be with the Bucks. And then it's picked up steam the past couple of weeks with Giannis booing the crowd and Giannis saying all the things that he's been saying. It's picked back up. Do you think it dies back down with an injury, or do you think it ramps up more?
It ramps up, man. It's the pitchforks. Get ready for the pitchforks and the Village people to be mad, because it's this team isn't going to turn itself around without Giannis, right? And I feel like it's going to fester while we just kind of, I hate talking so bad about Bucks basketball, but to me, it seems like this is going to be a lost second half of the season. And we talked about this off air. Giannis isn't a guy who's going to throw away a season or admit defeat. It's just not in his nature. So now you're fighting with your top superstar to say, hey, if you want to be here, and like you've told us, you want to be here, we want to set something up for the next couple of years, we probably need to coast to a lot more losses and get something in this draft, or maybe get something in the draft that you can use to go out and get another free agent that can help you immediately in the next season.
So what would be that piece next season that you'd be thinking about? Because if you don't think they can do it at the trade deadline, what about in the off season? How do you convince Giannis then? Because he's going into this offseason, I believe, with the player option.
Yep.
Can choose whether he wants to stay with the team or not, and he can maybe go sign with a different team. How do you convince him that taking that player option and then signing a Supermax the next season is the best option?
God, you play a great devil's advocate. It's going to be tough. I think one of the guys I like that does not like where he is in the NBA, Jonathan Kuminga. I think he gives you great scoring and he's a good defender. I just think he hates where he's at.
Do you get worried at all? But he's playing under one of the greatest coaches of all time.
True.
Playing with some of the greatest players of all time, especially in Steph Curry. And Draymond Green's going to be a Hall of Famer, whether people like that or not. He is going to be
well deserved. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
He's playing with some of the greatest faces in basketball history. Like, doesn't that worry you at all if he were to come to the Bucks, that he can't just like turn that off? Like, I feel like even if you are disgruntled a little bit, a George Pickens style player, you still figure out a way to play well. You still figure out a way to get yourself out of that situation by playing better.
Yeah, it's a solid point. He might tip the boat on the chemistry and not really fit in. And then where are you at next year? You gave
Where do you think the chemistry is right now for this Bucks? So like you say he can tip the chemistry, but if like there is no chemistry, then I guess that aspect doesn't matter.
Yeah, you're right. It's our chemistry is very low. You saw that picture last night of everyone, Ryan Rollins kind of almost head in hands and Giannis just staring into the deep darkness on the bench. That's kind of where this morale is for this team right now.
Is morale different than chemistry in your mind? So like, how would you differ those two things?
Chemistry is built through playing and wins. Morale is how you feel off the court, going to practice, showing up, being with your teammates. And I think neither, if we're scoring both of those 1 out of 10, we're at a 3. It is dark. These are, if we don't, that's my fear, Charlie, is if we don't make a Patriots or a Packers type move with Giannis, you mess up and now you have nothing. And then we're going to look like the Bucks from the mid to late 80s,
Yeah, I guess. But also at the same time, Sparky has brought this up a lot too. And I don't know if I 100% agree with him, but I get where he's coming from. He said, whoever is to trade Giannis, whoever that person is, whether it's John Horst, whether it's the next GM that comes in, whether it's the front office that wants to do so and they're vocal about that, because sometimes you hear that a lot. Whoever that next person is to do that will have that on their resume for the rest of their lives. And there's a pretty likely chance that the Milwaukee Bucks are not good after that. So if you were to trade Giannis and then for the next 2 seasons be a really bad basketball team, you get fired as the GM and you don't get hired as a GM for the rest of your life. Do you think there's any value to gambling that you can trade him away and turn this around versus just letting him walk and letting that be his decision versus the Milwaukee Bucks?
You do. That's exactly what's going through this GM's mind is, okay, am I the guy who's known for getting ready Giannis, and then we are bad with the guys we got for the next 5 to 7 years, and then I'm run out of town in the first 2 to 3 years with the players I've got with any type of deal. I'm in the boat that it's obvious if we don't do anything, he's gone. And what are we going to have? We're going to have Ryan Rollins, KPJ, and those are decent athletes, but that's not going to move.
They're not honest.
Yeah, no,
they're not.
How many wins, the windfall column between Giannis getting you wins and percentage of those guys getting you wins, it's not even fathomable.
I mean, we'll see it over the next 4 to 6 weeks, and we'll see if the Bucks decide that's enough for them to make a big move. Again, there's some players out there that could be helpful to Giannis moving forward if you were to give that a shot. This is Wisconsin Sports Weekend, live from the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook and presented by Apollo Cafe, Milwaukee's Greek superstar flavor, right there on historic Brady Street. When we come back, we're going to discuss Philip Rivers getting a head coach interview and potentially more moving forward here, which is insane to me to say that, and what that means for your opinion of Matt LaFleur and the contract extension that he has reportedly signed. We will be right back. I'm Charlie Houston. That's Jack Pembroke. This is Wisconsin Sports Weekend. Welcome back into Wisconsin Sports Weekend. I am Charlie Houston. That's my guy, Jack Pembroke, on the other side of the glass over there. We got about 5 minutes real quick here, so I want to dive into some of the Packers head coaching and just assistant coaching news that we've heard over the past couple of weeks, and then we'll dive into the topic with Philip Rivers getting some head coaching interest and comparing that to the Matt LaFleur news that I'm going to share with you right now here on Wisconsin Sports Weekend, live from the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network studios and powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook and presented by Apollo Cafe, Milwaukee's Greek superstar flavor, right there on historic Brady Street. So if you guys were not paying attention earlier this week, the Packers coaching staff had two big moves happen for that group. Jeff Hafley, defensive coordinator, a guy a lot of people were pretty upset with for the last part of the season there, the last final 5 losses for the Packers. A lot of people were blaming Jeff Hafley for that. Well, he is not going to be a Green Bay Packer anymore, not by choice of the Packers. He is signing with the Miami Dolphins as their next head coach. Just had their introductory press conference yesterday. Also in the front office for the Packers, John Eric Sullivan has transitioned over to the Miami Dolphins as well as the GM. Part of the reason that him and Hafley have decided to make, or why Hafley decided to make that decision to move to Miami and be a part of that organization. On the Green Bay Packers side of things, though, it was announced earlier in the week, about Sunday night, Monday morning, that Matt LaFleur has officially agreed with the Green Bay Packers on an extension moving forward here. The numbers have not been released yet, but a lot of people are looking at this deal and expecting somewhere between the range of like 3 years, $45 million, about $15 million a year, to about $17 million a year. It could be, in my mind, a little bit of an overpay for a Matt LaFleur. I felt like this season, so Ben Johnson's getting paid between $12 and $13 million right now. I don't feel like, in my mind, Jack, Matt LaFleur was $2 million better than Ben Johnson this past season.
I think you're right. I hate to admit that, but I think Ben Johnson is going to be a wizard in terms of coaching in this division. You know my qualms. I think Matt LaFleur is a solid coach. I think he's one of the top 10 to 12 coaches in the league. Very good coach. I always find my frustrations being second half, he couldn't coach his way out of a paper bag if he has to change his options. If he has to change his game plan, we are screwed. It's shown up in every playoff game that we haven't. I think the only game that we've won where we've been up a ton is the Cowboys game. We've got to, whether it's special teams, whether it's defense, you've got to be able to run out the clock and beat a team up 18 at half in a playoff game. You've got to.
But part of that is the defense has to be able to hold the other team's offense too.
And that's where I don't get too harsh on him.
But it's kind of hard to, in my mind, in defense of Matt LaFleur, have these long drives where you can't chew the clock when the other team is doing that to you on the other side, and they're able to score every single time too. It feels like, whether it's a touchdown or a field goal, especially in the second half.
And the front seven's always gassed by the middle of the third quarter.
Rashawn Gary's gassed before he even touches.
Oh man, I've been so mad watching his low lights this season, where a guy will come across the screen from the top of the screen and he'll be on this side chasing a quarterback, and he'll just decide like 3 steps in, oh, I'm gonna jog this one out.
Done.
Yeah,
I don't really feel like they got him.
Yeah.
Him.
Oh, he grabbed his flag. Yeah,
right. And it felt like also at the end of those games when Micah Parsons was in there, he would play so much in the first half, and in the second half, they'd have to find ways to rotate him around or get him into different spots where he's not the primary pass rusher, because he's either getting tired or the opposing offense has figured out your game plan with him in the first half and made adjustments, unlike sometimes the Green Bay Packers do. But the reason Matt LaFleur's contract extension is unknown for now is because the Green Bay Packers are working on extending GM Brian Gutekunst as well, and President of Football Operations Russ Ball. Both those guys and Matt LaFleur, once all 3 contracts are figured out, they will announce the total numbers for all of those guys. Jack, just kind of based off what you saw this season, Brian Gutekunst, the GM, and Matt LaFleur, the head coach, what would be the number you would pay those 2 guys?
I think Brian Gutekunst, I'm giving. I think he deserves more of his paycheck than Matt LaFleur does. But that you can have your arguments either way. I think he did a huge job in getting Micah here, so you got to give him more money. I'm not giving Matt LaFleur $2 million more a year than Ben Johnson.
I think that's fair. I look at that and I also think, while I said that earlier, Matt LaFleur has been head coach for the past 7 years. Ben Johnson's a 1-year head coach. And Matt LaFleur has consistently been successful as a head coach in this league. And Ben Johnson has 1 year of success under his belt. So, yeah, I think there's reason to pay him more than Ben Johnson, while at the same time thinking that he didn't have a better season than Ben Johnson had last year. This is Wisconsin Sports Weekend, live from the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook and presented by Apollo Cafe, Milwaukee's Greek superstar flavor, right there on historic Brady Street. When we come back, we'll dive into the other half of this conversation we wanted to have about Philip Rivers getting head coaching interviews and whether or not that changes your perspective on a Matt LaFleur extension there. I'm Charlie Houston. That's Jack Pembroke. We will be right back.
Hit the shower. Grab your coffee. And get ready to attack the weekend with Charlie Usen and Jack Pembroke as they catch you up on everything Wisconsin sports you may have missed this past week. All before you even finish your breakfast. It's Wisconsin Sports Weekend, brought to you by the Apollo Cafe on Brady Street. 25 years of Greek tradition. Enjoy gyros, souvlaki, fresh salads, and the legendary Zeus Burger. Dine in, take out, or get it delivered. Apollo Cafe, Milwaukee's Greek superstar of flavor, on the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network.
Welcome back into Wisconsin Sports Weekend. I am Charlie Usen. That is Jack Pembroke on the other side of the glass. And like the big voice lady just said, we are live from Wisconsin Sports Radio Network Studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. And we are presented by Apollo Cafe, Milwaukee's Greek superstar flavor, right there on historic Brady Street. If you guys missed any of the first hour of the show, do not worry. Go back, wisportsradio.com. You can rewind the show there as well, on YouTube, on Twitter, where we are live streaming. We can see Jack's lovely sweater that he's got on. I got a nice sweater too. It's
Thanks, Mom.
Road. Yeah, exactly. There you go.
Shout out Mary D.
There you go. That is, again, Jack Pembroke over there. If you missed any of the first hour of the show, we were discussing the Freddie Peralta trade. We were discussing the Giannis Antetokounmpo injury that happened last night. And we were breaking down the latest coaching news for the Green Bay Packers. I did want to dive into some of the other hirings and firings that we saw across the NFL over the past couple of weeks. The Baltimore Ravens just hired Jesse Minter on January 22nd, former LA Chargers defensive coordinator, joining back into the Baltimore Ravens staff, a group that he was a part of for the early part of the 2020s. If we head on down to the Dallas Cowboys, they hired defensive coordinator Christian Parker, a guy that a lot of Packers fans were really interested in. The Packers reportedly were super interested in, a guy that was a part of the system, a part of the coaching staff for a while in Green Bay before goes from Philadelphia over that way. If we head on down to the Atlanta Falcons, they made two really big moves. Head coach Kevin Stefanski, former Browns head coach, got fired from there after another down season. He's been a guy that's had some really high ups and some really low lows. His really high highs, though, have been coach of the year, 2 coaches of the year. For a guy that was coaching the Cleveland Browns, that's pretty impressive. That's hard to do. So I think that's something that
Bill Belichick couldn't do that.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. He failed there first. They also brought in president of football operations, Matt Ryan, former Atlanta Falcons.
Love it. Love the move.
It's awesome. I think that was a really great move. I think it means they're aggressive. We want somebody who's been on the field, been a part of this organization. He knows it in and out. We also want to go to the LA Chargers, where offensive coordinator Mike McDaniel was signed there, but then also reported not signed. Reportedly, he's still getting head coaching interviews with the Raiders, with the Browns, some of these other teams. The Browns apparently have a really weird coaching search process. They're making their candidates do a quiz, do an essay, and then also have a presentation put together. So
reminds me of my high school days studying for the SAT.
Right, exactly. And Mike McDaniel and Jesse Minter both pulled out of the Cleveland Browns coaching search because they didn't want to do all that, which I don't blame them. I don't want to have to write an essay for that job when you know what I can be. You know what I am. You've seen me before.
Yeah.
Head coach Robert Saleh was hired by the Tennessee Titans. As I mentioned before, John Eric Sullivan and Jeff Hafley leave the Packers for the Dolphins. And finally, the last head coach hiring right now, the New York Giants signed John Harbaugh. One of the biggest firings, though, was the Buffalo Bills letting go of head coach Sean McDermott in favor of GM Brandon Beane, a guy that people have criticized a ton. Jack, what was your initial reaction to the Bills letting go of Sean McDermott?
To me, it's starting to show us that there's more of a dumpster fire than we knew. I mean, there's a ton of stuff that has come out about the Bills today that is starting, or this week, that's started to show you the chinks in the armor and maybe why they haven't been able to get over some of those humps in the AFC playoffs. I was a bit surprised when they got rid of McDermott. I think he's a very solid coach, definitely a top 10 coach. They'd been on the precipice. I don't think there wasn't a really good marriage between the front office and him. And I think that's what it came down to. But man, some of these searches and decisions on, these are the top guys we're going to go look for over other guys that have been in the league kind of keep my head scratching.
So you brought up those searches that they're doing, and I mentioned it before as well. Former NFL quarterback, played as recently as this past season for the Indianapolis Colts for some reason. They brought him out of retirement. Philip Rivers is reportedly interviewing for the Buffalo Bills head coaching position, a move that a lot of people felt was unserious. A lot of people were saying that on Twitter. Other people are arguing that this isn't unserious. Philip Rivers has a lot of experience in the league. He's played for multiple organizations throughout his career, so he knows kind of the ins and outs of two different places that are very different in LA, the Chargers, and then the Indianapolis Colts. The way that they're run is very different. You have all this play experience. You are a high school head coach, which I guess doesn't really translate exactly to the NFL directly, but it was enough for the Indianapolis Colts to give you a shot in their offense over some of the other players across the league that didn't know your offense already. They felt like they were confident in Philip Rivers' ability to run that scheme to a T. He's learned from a lot of great coaches throughout his time playing football. I think this is a situation where, yes, it doesn't seem like a serious candidate to me, but at the same time, I kind of get where the Bills are coming from, right, Jack?
I understand it. So let's give 2 pros and 2 cons. Pros. He's a competitor. He knows systems. He knows offensive systems. He's the son of a longtime decorated Alabama high school coach. So the guy lives and breathes football. The cons are, do you want to bring in a guy who hasn't coached ever as an NFL guy? And do you want to bring it into a situation that's so volatile where your owner is basically calling out draft picks and your own quarterback won't show up to post interviews because he doesn't want to be a part of any of this circus right now? I think it's a tough place to bring in a Philip Rivers and expect him to perform right away like McDermott did. With all that going on, they want to get rid of their wide receiver. They never wanted to draft him, according to the owner. That's a lot to be thrown into. I think if we were talking about, hey, Philip Rivers is going to be our offensive coordinator, I'd be a lot more easygoing with that feel and be like, yeah, that makes sense. Cool, give him a chance. I bet you there's a lot of guys in the league that have coached that are like, wait, Philip Rivers is getting a call before I am.
Do you think that, or I guess, why do you think that's different from the NBA approach or even the MLB approach, where they do give a lot of these former players the opportunity without having that previous coaching experience, especially the NBA? Like Steve Nash got that job. JJ Redick is currently the head coach of the LA Lakers. Steve Kerr, exactly. And I think that you look at a lot of these, I guess Doc Rivers is a former player, but Steve Kerr and Doc Rivers both went through levels. They didn't.
Yes, they had to jump through hoops. Yeah.
So they had a little bit of a different journey, but more recently, again, the Steve Nashes, the JJ Redicks. How do you defend that in the NBA, but can't defend that in the NFL? Like, what is the difference between?
So as someone who didn't play organized football, but played high levels of organized basketball's 5 to 7 to 8 guys on a team that you need to make sure those 8 guys can play and the chemistry is great. So I think where it's basketball, it's easier for a former player to be able to control 5 to 10 guys and say, hey, this is the way we're going to play basketball. This is the way we're going to play defense. This is how we want our system to work. Where it's football, you have how many assistant coaches did you have in college?
We had one for each position at least, and then 4 or 5 GAs, graduate assistant coaches that were out there.
So let's say 7 to 10 coaches. On an NFL staff, you have to have so many coaches and you're controlling, like a head coach has to oversee so many things without really overseeing them, that I think it's a bit of a knee-jerk reaction. And like, I think he's a great guy. I really like Philip Rivers. I think eventually he'll get a shot. I just think this is a bit of a knee-jerk reaction to immediately be like, oh yeah, this 44-year-old guy, he can change it all for us, that McDermott couldn't get over that AFC hump.
Right. And Sean McDermott, they have it here on NFL.com, went 98-50 in the regular season, but 8-8 in the playoffs. He wasn't able to get it done at that aspect of things. I don't know what makes people think Philip Rivers will get it done. He's never won a Super Bowl in his career. I think he's only been to one AFC championship game in his career. Like, he's not any different of a winner than Sean McDermott is.
Do you think in some ways it's like to make a splash so that they're like, okay, well, we need a splash and we need to throw something out there?
Maybe. I think what they are noticing is that Josh Allen feels the need a lot to be a superhero and try to put the team on his back. And I think Caleb Williams falls into this kind of hole sometimes too. Some of these other, Justin Herbert falls into this hole a lot.
Hero
too.
ball.
Exactly. They try to do more than they probably need to. I think bringing in a guy like Phillip Rivers, who throughout his career had really good teams and then also not really good teams, also just kind of knew situationally what he was needed to do. And I think that's something they want instilled into a Josh Allen. But at the same time, again, just make him a quarterback coach. Then you don't need to make him the head coach of this team unless they think he can instill that in everybody on this team and make sure that they are situationally sound and not just good enough to get to the playoffs, to the point where you get to the playoffs and now you have to win shootouts all the time. But that's the other big problem, is that it's not the offense that's the problem for Buffalo. They had no talent on that offense, and it still was one of the best in the league. Their defense sucks, man.
Their defense is long in the tooth. I mean, Micah Hyde has had a great second half of his career there. We let him go way too early. But other than Cook and maybe Dawson Knox and Dalton Kincaid, who else do they really have that you're kind of afraid to cover? I mean, Khalil Shakir, great.
He's great. He was just kind of a number one receiver this season because he had to be.
Yeah, exactly.
It wasn't really because
by necessity.
Right. He's playing with one of the greatest quarterbacks of this generation, so he's going to get 1,000 yards. He's going to be that type of player. I think that matters more. I do want to tie this back into the Green Bay Packers conversation that we had earlier, though, discussing Matt LaFleur and how much he is worth. If Phillip Rivers, in the Buffalo Bills' mind at least, and potentially other teams, if other teams give him an opportunity, because if he's going to get interviews from the Bills, other teams are going to be like, oh, maybe they believe in him. They're a team that's successful. Maybe we should try believing in that. At least give him an interview. Do you think that changes a lot of people's perspectives about Matt LaFleur's upcoming contract extension that we have here? Do you think that's something that changes the way fans are viewing Matt LaFleur in the grand scheme of the NFL? Because there just aren't offensive coaches out there.
It's the old saying of the devil you know is better than the devil you don't. And I think that's kind of what we got to, is why the Packers wouldn't let go of Matt LaFleur. Not talking price, but just who else were you going to get to come in, work with Jordan Love, create that chemistry, make Micah happy, make Josh Jacobs happy. It didn't seem feasible. I think he would have, like a lot of people said, Andy used to say this all the time on Pack a Day. He would find a job in 30 seconds and get paid good money as a head coach somewhere else immediately. He gets snatched up. So I think I'd rather be in our situation than the Bills situation, where you're thumbing your thumbs through the Rolodex of ex-players, ex-coaches, and who would be a good fit for your young quarterback. And I'm glad that's not an off-season problem we have, because we are bringing back Matt LaFleur and Goot.
Here on Wisconsin Sports Weekend, live from the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook, we are asking you, do guys like Phillip Rivers getting head coaching interviews and consideration right now change your opinion about Matt LaFleur and his upcoming contract extension, and whether or not you value him a little bit more in the NFL? You can hit us up on the Nicolay Law Talk and Text line, 414-677-1250. Again, 414-677-1250, 1250. You can also hit us up at WI Sports Radio on YouTube and Twitter, where we are live streaming as well. Tim over there in the dugout chat says, guys, all I care about is Mason Crosby, special teams coach. A lot of people cared about that clip from the Mason Crosby show. You can hear that show with Mason Crosby himself and Mitch Thunder Nellis, and then my guy Tommy Wirtz on the 1s and 2s. You can hear that from noon to 2 here on the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network. They were discussing that, and Tommy asked him that question, whether or not being a former player in that position could help out a guy like Matt LaFleur, who is consistently asking for help from his friends. I think guys like Robert Saleh were coming in. Nathaniel Hackett, Luke Getsy's helping out on the offense this season. You had a lot of guys that were coming in that way. Do you think bringing in former players could maybe give a guy like Matt LaFleur a type of confidence boost that he wasn't getting from the other coaches around him, and maybe change his opinion? Because we also talked with James Jones, former Packers wide receiver on Wisconsin Sports Daily, and asked him that question, if he would want to be the wide receiver coach for the Green Bay Packers. He was like, absolutely, I would love to come back in. I think I can do a great job. I think I would be one of the best coaches in the league if you were to give me that opportunity. Al Harris is a former defensive back for the Green Bay Packers, and he's currently getting defensive coordinator consideration from the Green Bay Packers. maybe not as the head coach, but how much do you as a fan, and then how much do you think Matt LaFleur values having former players just in the coaching staff in general?
So great point on Al Harris. I was just going to bring him up. I think when you get players like that and they can focus on just defense, just wide receivers, running backs. I mean, the Packers have done it in the past with former running backs being coaches and assistant coaches. I think that's a good way to start with guys like that. We had a conversation off air about Bart Starr being a great player, right? And how my dad told me when he was a coach for the Packers, it did not translate. And that's my fear is, would it translate or would it not?
I guess I get that. But at the same time, when looking at how players view the game, especially more modern players, I think Bart Starr, part of the reason that doesn't work out as well, because I feel like the game transitioned almost too fast for him to be a head coach right away. And I think to your point, if you don't have that immediate success, I think that can be something that turns people off from you being a coach in the future, starting off in kind of these coordinator roles, these position player coaches roles that you can help fill out a lot of what we're missing with this Green Bay Packers team, because I don't think you're seeing a lot of help from a lot of former players right now. I don't think you're getting that type of insight and that type of connection between Matt LaFleur and the team. And I know Matt LaFleur has the team bought in. You can hear the way they talk about him, especially when at the end of the season, when they had the locker clear out day. You heard the way Micah Parsons talked about him, heard the way Christian Watson talked about him. You heard the way a lot of these players talked about Matt LaFleur, and they're bought into him. But I think he can also bridge that gap that you are missing. Guys like Brandon McManus, who were talking bad about Matt LaFleur earlier in the season, or at least were kind of chippy with each other with the interviews. I think you look at that and you say, you know what? I think you could bring in a guy like Al Harris. You could bring in a guy like James Jones or Mason Crosby. I know those are both long shots compared to an Al Harris, but they can help bridge that gap between a Matt LaFleur and the team, Jack.
I think you're right. And it probably wouldn't hurt our special teams to bring in a Mason Crosby.
That would be nice. I think that'd be pretty cool. We would miss him over here a little bit.
But we would.
He could Doug Gottlieb it.
No, he totally could.
I think he could do both. Let's head on over to the Nicolay Law Talk and Text line, where we got our guy Doc in Caledonia on the show here. Doc, how you doing, my man?
I am doing good, brother. After getting done with work, having some beers, listening to my favorite radio station.
Awesome. We appreciate that. And we appreciate you joining us. What'd you want to get in on here today? Do you think Matt LaFleur deserved that contract extension a little more after hearing Miss Phillip Rivers is getting those interviews?
It doesn't sway me because of Phillip Rivers. I think LaFleur should have got it anyway.
All right.
Regardless of all that. Now that he does have it, Al Harris, DC, right? He needs to pick up another coach, and it kind of weakens the Bears, and it strengthens our team with hopefully the secondary. So I'm good with bringing him in. The Jim Leonard stuff, all the other guys, that would be nice too, but that's the homer in me. And then I did want to touch on real quick. You guys were talking about Freddie Peralta. Mm-hmm. My hot take, dude, is I think they might trade Brandon Woodruff by the end of the trade deadline and stock more prospects.
Okay.
And then make a serious run at 2027. He's like Wizarowski, right? He's only got half a year in, right? I mean, some of these Quinn Priester, that's basically his first full year. Right. Like, they still got young, developing talent. Like, I don't think 2026 is the run, and I don't think they're going to do horrible. I think they'll still make a run at the division and make the playoffs, and then who knows what we can do. But yeah, my hot take is I think they're going to trade Woodruff, man, and get some more prospects and make a run at 2027.
So after seeing that Freddie Peralta trade, what do you think the value of a Brandon Woodruff is then to some of these other organizations that be looking for?
Ooh, see, because he's on a 1-year deal. I don't know if you're going to get I don't think you're going to get as much, because they keep talking about 2 players in the Freddie Peralta trade, but I thought ESPN, when I read it, showed that there were like 4 prospects from the Mets organization that are coming over.
So only 2 coming over to the Brewers, just Jet Williams and just Brandon Sproat.
Okay, the other 2 that they list, was it like a 3-team trade then or something?
Potentially, just this trade, from what I've seen, what we've talked about here on Wisconsin Sports Radio Network, has been Freddie Peralta and Tobias Myers going to the Mets for Jet Williams and Brandon Sproat.
So just
yeah, they might have had some like mock trades and stuff before they made the trade, and that might have been
2 for 2.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
2 for 2.
All right. Okay. Awesome. Yeah, we'll see what goes on. And man, I appreciate you guys letting me on.
Of course, Doc. Don't be a stranger, my man. Call back in.
You got it, brother.
All right, there he is, Doc in Caledonia. You can be like Doc. Get in on Wisconsin Sports Weekend here by calling 414-677-1250. Again, 414-677-1250, 1250 to get in on the Nicolay Law Talk and Text line. Jack, he brought up how much he feels like bringing a guy like Al Harris also hurts the Chicago Bears. I agree with him. I think Al Harris has done wonders wherever he's been in Dallas and in Chicago, being able to turn a lot of those defensive backs into ball hawks. And you see kind of the result of what happens when he leaves those places. Trevon Diggs was never the same. Deron Bland was never the same. We'll see if he gets a defensive coordinator job here. Do you think from his perspective, it would be a better choice to kind of stick around in kind of this cornerback, defensive back role where he has had so much success and kind of build more of a name for himself instead of jumping right to a defensive coordinator role where, like I'm talking about with some of these basketball coaches, where he could maybe put his name out there and then it could kind of crush anything just because he's a former player, not a coach.
I think when you're going for, head coaching positions, whether it's DC or OC, that's a little bit easier to take on as a former player who's he's seasoned as a coach and he's proven wherever he's gone, the boats rise when he's the coach, especially a DB's coach. The fall off when he left Dallas was evident, and the Bears secondary just blew up with him coaching. I know they got some good moves and they went out and got good players, but it's evident to me that, look, I'm a homer. I'd love to see Al Harris back in green and yellow and on the sidelines. But in reality, great point by Doc. I never thought of this, but you take away a great coach from the Chicago Bears and in division, and he's been with them for a year, so he knows a little bit of the secrets and the secret sauce. And I'd like to go 2-1 next year against the Bears, not 1-2.
All right, I could see that and see that helping. At the same time, when I look at the Chicago Bears in the second half of the season, they didn't turn the ball over like at all.
Nope.
Almost. They were almost as bad as the Packers in the second half of the season. The first half of the season, they were electric, turning out like 2 to 3 turnovers a game. Didn't matter what. In the second half of the year, you saw them kind of slow down with that, but you also saw them kind of get more confident just overall as a team. I don't know if just taking away a position coach really is going to matter that much. And I think the biggest worry you have with the Chicago Bears isn't on the defense, it's on the offense. And Al Harris, I'm going to go out on a limb, doesn't know that much about what the offense was running. He was focused on the defense and the defensive backs.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think he could help out in that aspect, that maybe he could give you a little inside knowledge to some of the players on the defense, some tendencies that maybe the offensive players have or the defensive players have.
Or like what they like to call.
Right. But I just don't know if that really gives you that much more of an advantage over said team. I think you saw that with the Bears and the Lions this year. Ben Johnson leaves to become the head coach of the Chicago Bears. And yes, he understands the offensive intricacies of the Lions, but it changes when he leaves. It's going to change when Al Harris leaves the Chicago Bears the same way. They'll figure out how to kind of rotate that. We'll see how that works. But I think there are other candidates in my mind that I'm looking at for this Green Bay Packers team that I think just have more experience. And I want somebody that, yes, as a player, I want you to be able to bridge that gap between Matt LaFleur and the players, but I think that's more of a position coach style job. I think I still want a guy who's been around the block once or twice to be the defensive coordinator.
I know he's still interviewing for head coach jobs. I want a Raheem Morris or a Jim Leonard. It's not the homer in me. I think Jim Leonard, anywhere he's been, like look at all the Rex Ryan trusted him enough to be the captain of a lot of his defenses. Those were elite. Those are the Ravens defenses, the Jets defense. I want an elite mind like a Raheem Morris, a Jim Leonard. Al Harris, I think, could do it, but Jim Leonard and Raheem Morris have been in the trenches doing this for years and years, decades, and I just trust those guys. I personally, Raheem Morris, bring him.
All right, this is Wisconsin Sports Weekend. We're breaking down the Matt LaFleur contract extension and kind of where we want to go with defensive coordinators, what other head coaching interviews mean for your perception of the Matt LaFleur extension, all here on Wisconsin Sports Weekend, live from Wisconsin Sports Radio Network Studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook and presented by Apollo Cafe, Milwaukee's Greek superstar flavor, right there on historic Brady Street. When we come back, we're going to dive into Warlock's Locks, where we changed it up a little bit this time around. You'll hear all about that next here on Wisconsin Sports Weekend. We will be right back. Welcome back into Wisconsin Sports Weekend. Oh, that music sounds all right. Let's go with this one right here. This sounds a little better for Wisconsin Sports Weekend's own Warlocks Locks. I have my guy Jack, the Wisconsin Warlock Pembroke, over there on the ones and twos. Usually for Wisconsin Sports Weekend's Warlocks Locks, we have the Magic Cheesehead. I wanted to do college basketball cards, and I went to the store and I looked around, and they only have college basketball cards for last season. Apparently, they don't come out with the college basketball ones until the end of the year. I didn't really want to do NBA again because we've done NBA before. I wanted to switch it up a little bit. I want to make it something a little bit more personal.
Be like new.
Us. Right, exactly. So I'm going to combine a little bit of an old segment that we used to do, Mount Pixmore, and kind of slam it together.
Love it.
Warlocks Locks.
Love it.
I, the gentle giant, the Warlocks assistant over there, went and picked 4 players on Prize Picks and did personally more or less. I'm going to ask Jack, the Wisconsin Warlock, his personal more or less line there as well. As we dive into Wisconsin Warlocks Locks. So first up here, Jack, I'm going to go with 2 picks from each of the championship games in the NFL. The first one I wanted to do is Matthew Stafford, more or less 1.5 passing touchdowns against Seattle.
More.
Easy. Well, that was
more.
Easy more from the Wisconsin
I think he gets
Warlocks.
2. So let's run it.
All right, fair enough. So if we head back over to the LA Rams and how they have fared against Seattle so far this season, it has been a back and forth battle in both those games. One of the games, I know Sam Darnold just completely imploded against the Rams. If we head back, start going back through the season for them as well. I cannot not find the Seahawks. Oh, because I'm on the Seahawks. Maybe I should look. I thought I was looking at the Rams.
It's okay.
So they lost to the Rams in the second matchup of the season. That was a 21-19 loss for the Seattle Seahawks. Again, that's the game where Sam Darnold threw 3 interceptions, including a back-breaking one at the end of that game there. And then they also beat the Rams later on in the year in a 38-37 just kind of barn burner. This is going to be a game where there should be a lot of scoring. At the same time, Seattle's defense has looked better than they have all season, and that's a unit that if they can force a few turnovers, may deter the Rams a little bit there, Jack.
And it could slow down Matt Stafford. The Rams might choose to run a little bit more, maybe not put the ball downfield. But I just feel like if you're going to lose or you're going to win, you go out swinging with your top man. And look, that offense in the red zone is much better when they're throwing the ball. So I think we're okay with taking 2.
Exactly. Let's head on over to the other championship game where I went with the other quarterback in that one. You would think Drake May. No, I'm going Jarrett Stidham in this one. His more or less on Prize Picks right now is 204.5 passing yards, Jack. Do you think that's something realistic against a New England Patriots defense that kind of the opposite of the Seahawks started out really strong throughout the season and throughout the playoffs now have kind of looked like they're tiring out a little bit? What are your expectations for Stidham? Yes, I know he's not a star, but he is a player that not a lot of people have seen this season.
That's true. We haven't seen him. Sean Payton seems to be putting up a good show about how confident he is in Stidham. I think, look, he's going to be put in situations where he can throw the ball, and he's not a bad system guy. 204 is right on the dot, man. Oh, what was his last game ever that he played a full game?
Let me go figure that out.
Sorry.
That's no, he didn't play at all this season, so we'd have to go back to last season, I believe. Let's see. Jarrett Stidham, Denver Broncos. His stats in 2024 with Denver, also only played in 3 games, just kneeled the ball a bunch of times. His last game played was in 2023. He played 3 games that season, threw for 496 yards, 2 touchdowns to 1 interception.
Ooh, that 204 ain't looking too great.
I don't know.
Let's let it ride. We're going more.
All right, I like it.
205.
Have some faith in
205 for Jared.
All right, I did want to head over to the NBA a little bit though, as I was looking at some of the storylines for some of these players. And Luka Doncic is heading back to Dallas for the second time in his career tonight.
Revenge.
Should be a fun game. Dallas is not the same team that they were last year. Anthony Davis has spent a lot of time injured. Kyrie Irving hasn't touched the floor yet this year. Cooper Flagg has looked pretty good as the first overall pick, but not enough to keep them competitive in the West. Luka is a guy that if I head over to his stats versus Dallas this season, he has one game played against them again in LA. He had 35 points, 11 assists, 5 rebounds, and 1 block and 2 steals in that game as well. On PrizePicks, he is expected more or less 33.5 points. Jack, do you think that's something that we can expect to see from Luka Doncic tonight with Austin Reeves still sidelined with that injury?
We're going to see a lot of shots from Luka tonight, and I think a healthy portion of him scoring. So I think 33 is a lot of points, but it's against your old team, and you've got to grind an extra grind. So let's go.
Well, not just against the old team, but in their hometown. I think that's what they're talking about. Yeah. This is going to be crazy. I mean, I think Luka Doncic is one of those players that is pretty polarizing at this point in his career. A lot of people feel like there's issues with the way that Luka plays defense. There's issues sometimes with the way that he conditions himself. I think this is a game where, yes, you've proven that you are one of the best players in the league, but again, just keep sticking it to Dallas for what they did to you. They just gave you away. Go out there, just keep.
And their new ownership is just cruddy too. So I'd love to see them get a slap in the face for that move too.
Exactly. And last up here, Jack, I know you have been cheering on Iowa State throughout this season.
Love them.
A basketball school. I wanted to go with one of their star players, Joshua Jefferson. So far this season is averaging 17.3 points, 7.89 rebounds, and 5.3 assists on 49% shooting from the field. A ridiculous stat line from a college guy. He is a senior, playing forward 6'9" for them. They are taking out Oklahoma State, who is not a team to mess with. They're 14-5, yes, unranked at this point, but probably will be a tournament team when the season comes around. So far this season versus Oklahoma State in one game, Joshua has scored 19 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists on PrizePicks. His more or less for points, rebounds, and assists is 34. He hit 29 in that last matchup against Oklahoma State. Jack, what are your expectations for him in this one? Oklahoma State, if we head over to their lineup, is projected the Iowa State Cyclones win this game 85% to 15%.
Well, look, Iowa State, the Cyclones are probably one of the top 2 or 3 teams in the country, probably have 2 or 3 pros, eventual future pros on their team, which is what is my standard for whether you have a Final Four team or not. I think more or less from Jefferson, I think he's going to give you more than 27 points.
All right. 27 points alone should get him to that point because it's 34 points, rebounds, and assists.
Oh, so I thought it was just points.
No, if you think he's going to get 27 points, then
let's it's rebounds and assists, Charlie.
And again, he's averaging 5 assists.
Yeah.
7 rebounds.
I think we go, man, are we going more on all of these?
I think so.
Let's do it.
Let it ride.
Let it ride.
Let it ride. So there you have it. That has been Warlock's Locks. Matthew Stafford, the Warlock, says more than 1.5 passing touchdowns. Jared Stidham, more than 204.5 passing yards against New England. Luka Doncic, more than 33.5 points against his former team down there in Dallas. And last but not least, Joshua Jefferson for the Iowa State University, taking out Oklahoma State with more than 34 points, rebounds, and assists. That has been Warlock's Locks here on Wisconsin Sports Weekend. We are going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to dive into the Wisconsin Sports Weekend Pub Crawl, where we share all of the things we may have missed in the show that you may have missed throughout the week in sports. Again, this is Wisconsin Sports Weekend, live from the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook and presented by Apollo Cafe, Milwaukee's Greek superstar flavor, right there on historic Brady Street. We will be right back. I like Counting Crows, Jack. I do.
I've always been a big fan of this song.
But I think I like this a little bit better.
There
we go.
There's the Irish bar tunes.
There we go. Let's head on over to YouTube and make us uncover for a second here. Real quick. I got it. This is Wisconsin Sports Weekend live from the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook and presented by Apollo Cafe, right there on historic Grady Street. If you guys do not know what the Irish jig means, it means it's time for the Wisconsin Sports Weekend Pub Crawl. Jack and I go through everything that you may have missed in Wisconsin sports, national sports, sometimes not even sports. Sometimes Jack likes to get a little scientific. Dr. Pembroke.
Oh, geez, my parents would have been so happy.
Yeah, but they're still happy.
Yeah, they're still happy. They're still, yeah. I'm not out of the will yet.
There you go, exactly. On the Wisconsin Sports Weekend Pub Crawl, again, Jack and I go back and forth, and I will get us started by heading over to NCAA basketball, where NBA player, G League player Charles Bediako gets a restraining order versus the NCAA, or a temporary restraining order that allows him to return to Alabama and play immediately for them. Yesterday on Wisconsin Sports Daily, Sparky and I heard from their head coach Nate Oates, and he was saying, "Oh, you know what? It sucks that we're able to do this. You know, something needs to be fixed, something needs to be changed." And then he proceeds to go and just do it. Like, what, dude? How are you going to talk like that after you already did something like this?
If you can't beat them, join them, Charlie.
I guess, but at the same time, if you're going to be so vehemently against it, then be against it. Don't immediately do it. Or I guess he got the guy to come to it back to Alabama before, like, he even said any of that. So he was like, oh, he's already coming in. Can't do anything about it. It's the kid and the school. But why do the schools get the choices and kids don't get the choices? Like, shut up. Dude.
What are we doing with the NIL? What are we doing?
It's so weird. This guy was in the NBA for 2 years, 2 whole seasons before he's coming back to Alabama.
You're going to kill any development from guys from actual high school. You're going to just start recruiting guys from the G League.
Exactly. That's what it feels like. And it sucks. It sucks to see that this was what's happening. I think there's going to be some big changes coming here, especially if MLB is going to make some big changes. It might give the NCAA a little bit of confidence to make those same big changes. Jack, what do you got next?
So you told me we might have some play-by-play on this, but I feel bad for Keon Coleman. He does not deserve how Bills Mafia and their brass are treating him. He pretty much got thrown up under like 10 school buses at the last Bills press conference.
That's what it felt like. Let me get the clip here for you. So if you want to break down, it was Terry Pegula, the owner of the Buffalo Bills, discussing Keon Coleman in this situation. So yeah, here we go. Here's Terry Pegula discussing why he gave Brandon Beane the contract extension, and then why he defends what we're seeing from Keon Coleman on the field, and why that means, I guess, for some reason, Brandon Beane can keep his job. Here's Terry Pegula talking about that.
I'll address the Keon situation. The coaching staff pushed to draft Keon. I'm not saying Brandon wouldn't have drafted him, but he wasn't his next choice. That was Brandon being a team player and taking advice of his coaching staff, who felt strongly about the player. And, he's taken, for some reason, heat over it and not saying a word about it. But I'm here to tell you the true story.
When I went to bed that night, I was like, it's Keon unless someone just blows us away. We didn't feel anything was attractive enough for us to pass up on Keon.
Just in case you were wondering who that voice was at the end there, that was Brandon Beane, GM of the Buffalo Bills, saying that he wanted to draft Keon Coleman, and that if anybody else was going to be there, that was the guy at the top of their list. Jack, come on.
We can't be letting billionaire owners constantly talk at the end of your pressers.
Right, exactly. Like, they're just talking out their butts half the time, especially these guys that want to be way too involved in what's happening on the field versus just focusing on the overall big picture of it, which is what you're supposed to be doing. Stop meddling, because you just say things that make you look stupid.
Well, 2 things that I take away from this is, A, Keon Coleman, look, he's hasn't had the first 2 years you expected, but you don't throw a player under a bus like that if you want to move him. And now how's this kid supposed to come back in his third year and want to play for you guys.
Exactly. It makes no sense. And if I'm Keon Coleman, I'm saying I'm done. I want out of
here. He's
here.
asking already. I want to be let go or traded.
Right. You have to at that point. Next up on the pub crawl here, I want to go over to some other drama for another team that's been a perennial winner recently, at least. The LA Lakers have some drama between their ownership in Jeanie Buss and star player LeBron James. Apparently, Jeanie Buss began to turn on LeBron James years ago.
No.
Who would have thought? These are all reports from Baxter. If we head over to their Baxter Holmes of ESPN, he says Jeanie Buss grumbled about James's outsized ego. Felt Clutch Sports, Rich Paul, his agent, the guy that's doing the podcast now, that's also destroying everything in his path. She says Clutch Sports exerted too much control. She didn't like how LeBron was considered a savior of the Lakers. She thought he lacked accountability over the Westbrook trade. She privately mused about not giving him a contract extension and even about trading him. She felt LeBron was not grateful that the Lakers drafted Bronny. I know you're very intrigued by that one.
Oh, my gosh.
And then she also begrudgingly gave him a contract extension, fearing a bad PR hit like you saw with Luka Doncic and the Mavericks. Jack, what are your thoughts on this whole situation? And do you think that guys like Bronny are just kind of caught in the fire here, or does he deserve some kind of criticism, or at least the idea of drafting him deserves criticism?
So the idea of drafting him to appease the, father to keep him on the team is look, when this happened a couple years ago, I was talking to my friends who love basketball on Instagram and just saying, this will not work. This is so stupid. Why are they doing this? LeBron's at the plateau of his career. I honestly think 2 years ago, if they had gotten rid of him, they would have been able to salvage some type of movement in the West. It's just become, she got rid of her brothers. They built the program around him. They pretty much let him do what he wants. And yeah, I'd be a little ticked too if I was an owner and it's like, hey, we drafted your son to just so you could say, oh, well, Michael Jordan didn't get his kid drafted and feel, massage the ego. And what have you done? You haven't played that much. You've played cruddy, and your team is ailing.
But he won a championship.
Yeah.
So you have to go back to that. It doesn't matter when and where.
Yeah.
Shut up about that. A championship's a championship. Yeah. It's an NBA title. He's in the record books as an NBA champion in 2020. Shut up. Like, I hate all that. Like, yeah, okay, maybe it was a little bit easier, but he won it. I don't care.
Fair enough. He won that year. They played. Yep.
In 20 years, when we're talking about the Milwaukee Bucks winning the NBA Cup, you guys will all thank me for that too.
Okay.
Jack, next up here on the pub crawl for you.
Mark Cuban is offering Mendoza $39 million to stay for an Indiana repeat. I kind of love this. I think it's a bit tongue-in-cheek. Realistically, your boy Mendoza is going to be wearing silver and black.
Well, we also have to look at where that was coming. I'm pretty sure it was Michael Irvin that came out with that report. Miami,
right.
A legend, a former player, was a star this entire playoff run for the Miami.
More of a character now.
For sure. But also, I would feel like there's probably some truth to that. Maybe not $39 million, but an NFL-style contract.
Yes.
I could see. Like, that's something that is pretty intriguing. And if that were to happen, I mean, what does the rest of the NIL future look like if they start giving these guys NFL-style contracts? Last up here on the pub crawl, Patriots owner Robert Kraft says the NFL wants 18 games, only 2 preseason games, and every team should play an international game. I think that's insane by the NFL. If they want that, you're just going to cause more injuries and more guys are going to hate.
They get to do whatever they want, Charlie.
Exactly. And Jack, I'm going to steal this last one here for you because I do want to share it. But Rasheed Walker, Packers' current left tackle, was arrested at LaGuardia Airport in New York City for carrying a firearm in his luggage. Apparently something that he just wasn't informed on the process of. He legally owns it in Wisconsin, wanted to bring it with him on vacation, just couldn't do that. This is Wisconsin Sports Weekend, live from Wisconsin Sports Radio Network Studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook and presented by Apollo Cafe, Milwaukee's Greek superstar flavor, right there on historic Brady Street. I am Charlie Houston. That's my guy, Jack Pembroke. Have a great rest of your weekend, folks.